Checka Pro Joe here on the Checka Pro Radio Show. I love home improvement and helping you, the homeowner, with home improvement needs. Zachary Zaras is joining me from Leveled Concrete today here on the program. Zachary, how are you, my friend?
I am living the dream. How about yourself?
That's my line. I'm living the dream. I love it. And I love what you do. You know, when I drive down the street and I see my neighbors with their concrete that's not leveled, I think of you all the time.
I'm glad to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the goal out there, is to be the guy that you think about when you drive by and see us or see any kind of concrete problems.
Yeah, you know, for years there was something called mudjacking. Some companies still do it, but you do something called polyjacking, which is different. What are the differences and pros and cons to both?
Yeah, so the largest one, mudjacking, it is what it is. It sounds like it's mud. You have to rely on those contractors to mix the proper amount of Portland cement with the mud, the dirt they're using, and that way it ideally doesn't wash out. But most of the time, we've seen it washes out. Water gets under the concrete and it's dirt. It gets wet again. It washes right back out, and you're in the same situation. But it also not only uses larger holes. Size of a Coke can generally is the hole size, where ours is about the size of a pencil. So it seems to be better. Also, mud is very heavy, extremely heavy. It's like when you pump it under there, you're putting a ton of weight under the concrete. So, I look at it, if you were wearing high heels and you step in mud, you're going to sink in the mud. It's a very fine load. All your weight is fine on that one spot. Whereas if you put on, snowshoes for, say, you walk in snow, you won't sink. So mud is the same. If you put a bunch of mud under someone's driveway, it can cause that dirt to settle down some more, and your concrete goes right back to the same place along with the washout. Whereas the polyjacking, the polyurethane we use, level lift is what we call it. That product on an average driveway, we put about 200 pounds under the entire driveway. So I don't know about you, but I weigh a bit more than 200 pounds. So it's a little bit less than me laying down on your entire driveway. It doesn't add enough weight to substantially change anything. And it also doesn't wash out. Once it's under there, it's fully reacted. It's an inert material. It can be recycled if you ever pull it out for any reason, but it doesn't leach. It doesn't wash out. It is just an inert, essentially plastic underneath your driveway that's never going to go anywhere until you pull it out and recycle it.
Yeah, it's something that's going to last a very, very long time. What I really think is cool about the process is not only can you really not tell that you were there because these are pencil-sized holes, right? They're very small.
Yep.
It lifts the concrete immediately. It's not like when you pour new concrete where you have to let it cure. It lifts immediately. Even if you wanted to, you could probably have a pickup truck on it and lift that up at the same time. It's so powerful, right? And so
Yes.
I've seen the videos on your website. It lifts it up right to where your technician needs it, and that's it. And then the homeowner can drive on it shortly after.
Yeah, so it is a very fast reacting product. It fully reacts in about 15 seconds. It's done raising after about 15 seconds. So we can do subsequent injections to get that elevation where we need it to be. But once it's where we want it, we stop. It's there, and that's where we put it. And so with nice thing with polyurethanes, you can drive on that concrete within about 15 minutes when it's fully after we're done. So 15 minutes is when it is done and about 90% hardness. After that, it gets a little bit harder after that, but 15 minutes you can drive on it. Mud, generally it's 24 hours. You have to stay off of the concrete. It is still a wet slop underneath the concrete and you have to wait for it to dry. So it's a much faster return to service, return to use. And then as far as lifting, you're absolutely right. We do commercial projects, where we will actually lift the concrete with a heavy forklift on there to ensure we get the compaction we need for the supporting loads they put on it.
It's really like magic. When you see it done, it's like, come on, that foam really can, it's because people are used to foam when they're cleaning something like, the foaming toilet stuff or, foamy for your face when you're shaving, right? Foam. It's kind of like that, but it's not. I mean, So what really makes it so powerful, because it is powerful, it moves it, and so strong over time?
Yeah, so the chemical reaction in it is it has to go somewhere. So naturally, the foam's going to find a path of least resistance, and at a certain point, there is no more ground or no more open area for that foam to go. And the only place it can't push the ground down, so it's going to push the concrete up. And it's amazing how much weight it can lift. and how much it can push, and then hold when it's all said and done. But once it's a rigid, dense material, it's hard to explain what it's like, but it's almost like a really, really just dense plastic at the end of the day. It's almost like you're making plastic.
Yeah, and plastic doesn't wash away, or at least easily.
I mean,
And
it's got like a half-life of like 150 years. So if you live that long and it washes out, I'll gladly come replace it if I'm alive too.
it's going to last longer than Zachary. Oh my goodness.
Right.
And listen up, everybody. It's not just for your driveway. It's for your walkways, your pool deck, slabs that may be on your property in in an outbuilding, right? You can do a lot of different things.
Yep. So we can generally any about flat work we can do it. We tend to stay away from home foundations a lot with the polyurethane. We can do interiors, but most of the time, still piering is going to be needed on the exterior of the home. So we'll do that in conjunction with piering contractors. But on outbuildings, shops, metal buildings people have, we see those settle. We can lift those up just fine. Generally, they don't have enough weight, and it's also not a living structure that we can lift it with polyurethane, and it's not as much of a risk to a living structure. That said, so we've done plenty of outbuildings, walkways, patios, pool equipment pads, generator pads. You don't want your generator leaning because the oil then doesn't slosh properly. We can come in without disconnecting the generator, without getting the generator company out there, and lift those pads back into place and level those out.
Yeah, there's pretty much nothing concrete that you can't level. Zachary, thank you so much for joining me today on the program. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Level Concrete. All of Zachary's information is located in the description of this podcast.